Hey everybody, welcome back to Let's Talk. My name is John and I'm going to be your host here today. And today we're going to be talking about 1989's Born on the 4th of July and its brand new Shout Select 4K Blu-ray that just came out. But before we get into that 4K Blu-ray review, I always like to give a quick film review, and today's no different. So if you don't want to have anything for Born on the 4th of July spoiled for you, please make sure you guys skip ahead to that 4K Blu-ray review right now. So Born on the 4th of July was released in 1989, and the movie was written and directed by Oliver Stone. He actually co-wrote the movie with Ron Kovic, who this movie is about. He actually wrote the book about his life, Born on the 4th of July, so that's what this movie is based on. Him and Oliver Stone got together, wrote that screenplay, but it took quite some time for that movie to finally get made. Tom Cruise was actually interested way before the movie actually came out, even before he did Top Gun. I think he was actually interested around the time that they were doing Risky Business, but it took some time to get financing. After the success of Platoon, Oliver Stone was obviously able to get a lot more backers. That movie was a huge hit, and so was Born on the 4th of July. This movie stars Tom Cruise, and one of his more famous dramatic roles that he's played is one of the rare times he actually got nominated for an Academy Award. I think it's only one of two times, which is really a shame because Tom Cruise is one of our greatest actors ever. He's one of my favorite actors of all time. You know, he's much more known now for being the action star Tom Cruise, risking it all. But back in the 1980s, especially around this time, this is only 1 year after Rain Man, and they actually had to wait for Tom Cruise to finish Rain Man for them to actually make this movie. So coming off of Rain Man, which was another great dramatic performance, which I really feel like he didn't get enough recognition for that. Dustin Hoffman really got all the good recognition for that movie, rightfully so. He probably has the bigger, flashier performance, even though I'll argue Tom Cruise is the one that has to learn a lesson in that movie, and he's the one with the arc in that film. But, you know, he finished that movie up, he goes and does this, and I actually think his performance in Rain Man is a little bit better than it is in Born on the 4th of July. Born on the 4th of July is a really good movie that I don't think has aged perfectly since 1989. At 1989, this movie was seen as very progressive, very ahead of its time. Oliver Stone fought in the Vietnam War. He is somebody who's spoken out so much about the Vietnam War and everything that's happened there. So, of course, an anti-war film like this would definitely spark his interest, and obviously everything that happened with Ron Kovic would spark his interest after everything that Oliver Stone himself went through in the war. He has said that the Vietnam War is one of the worst experiences that he's ever had in his life, and it's something that he still has no issue talking about, and you could just see that in all of his films, even in films like JFK, which don't necessarily deal with the Vietnam War, but it does play a big part in it. So his politics are always on full display in these types of movies, and you know, you can understand that, especially when it comes to the Vietnam War. In 1989, the Vietnam War was still a touchy subject despite all the anti-war Vietnam films that we've had come out, showing how soldiers come back from the war in just horrible condition. That's the thing with Tom Cruise's character that we see throughout this entire film, is that his character wanted to be a soldier from a very young age. That's what he wanted to do. He volunteered for the Vietnam War. When people were getting drafted, he wanted to go to this war. Of course, it was way worse than he expected. Very similar to Charlie Sheen's character in Platoon. It was way worse than he expected. He also joined the Marines, which is, you know, something that's going to be really right there on the front lines, guaranteed to see action. That's what intrigued Tom Cruise. He wanted to be a leader. He even became, I believe, a sergeant in this. It looks very different from Platoon in those. There's a very limited amount of scenes actually in Vietnam showing the war, because we're showing his entire life over the span of about 20 years. So we see the scenes in Vietnam, and these are some of my favorite scenes in the movie because they look so different than other Vietnam movie scenes, you know, especially even Platoon. We're not really in the jungle. We're like on the beaches, and you get the like sun glowing down. And this is one of the pivotal moments in the film where, you know, there's so much confusion, and it's being shot this way as well. So much confusion going on that Ron Kovic doesn't know who's the enemy and who's on his side. So somebody comes flying over the hill, screaming with a gun. He shoots him. He ends up dying, and it ends up being somebody that he knows, a fellow soldier. And, you know, obviously he gets guilt-ridden with this. He wants to even go tell a superior officer who, like, wipes it away, doesn't believe him. And even if he did believe him, he's like, come on, man, we can't do this. And one thing that Oliver Stone says in one of the interviews is that he believes that 20%, that's 1/5 of all the soldiers killed on the United States side in the Vietnam War, were due to friendly fire. It's something he says that the government won't acknowledge. Of course they're not going to want to acknowledge something like that. The Vietnam War has always been a very touchy subject. A lot of people, you know, don't believe we should have been there. We probably shouldn't have been there. The problem is that these soldiers that did go there, even if they volunteered or they were drafted in, they were treated so horribly by their country when they got back. And, you know, Ron Kovic was still a very proud soldier, felt like he did the right thing, even though he says in this movie, Tom Cruise, that he would trade it all just to have his working body again, because he ends up getting paralyzed himself in this war. And that's really where the movie kind of, it takes a little bit of a turn, because one thing about Tom Cruise is you always know it's Tom Cruise. I'm always very distracted by the fact while I'm watching this movie that that's Tom Cruise wearing all this makeup. And I wouldn't say that the makeup in this movie has aged that gracefully. Tom Cruise's acting is still really, really well done. It's not my favorite of his performances, honestly, by a mile, even though other people give great performances in this movie as well, including Willem Dafoe. It's just that there's points where I'd find it distracting that Tom Cruise was in this movie. And obviously, at the time, in the late 1980s, there wasn't any bigger actor than Tom Cruise, and he wants to show off those acting chops. And there's a reason why he got nominated for the Academy Award. It's just, I feel like somebody else in this role, all these years later, it'd be less distracting, and it might have been done just a little bit more grittier, a little bit, even though Tom Cruise, again, fully commits to it. He spent time with Ron Kovic. Ron Kovic, I believe, was on set. And, Tom Cruise, we know, dives into his roles. He's going to go full bore on it. And there's a scene in this movie, and this really does show off the Tom Cruise acting chops, but the clothes he's wearing and the makeup would take me out of it. And this is actually something that didn't happen in real life. We talked about the friendly fire killing that happens in this movie, and in the film and in the book, Ron Kovic meets the family of that soldier and tells them that he believes he's the one who killed their son. Now, that didn't actually happen in real life. He never did confront the family about it. He essentially was confessing to this in the book, and then they obviously wanted the dramatic effect in the film. And it's a great scene, showing off how good of an actor Tom Cruise is. It's just I always would find it a little bit distracting, and that's really unfortunate. That's a moment that really should have struck me emotionally. The movie did get an Academy Award also for Best Editing and Best Directing for Oliver Stone, and definitely rightfully so. The editing of an epic is always one of the hardest things to do, so we don't feel like the time is passing too fast, even though I did kind of feel that in the first third of this movie, that the time was going a little bit too quick. But then we definitely do focus up more in the second act. Even if I didn't enjoy the second half of this film as much as I enjoyed the first half, it's not something you're really there to enjoy. It's just there. You're just really there to appreciate what these soldiers had to go through in the Vietnam War, and try to understand why their perspective of that war would change as time goes on. Because man, you feel such sympathy for this guy, and basically he got his whole life flipped upside down. He's never going to be able to have kids. He's never going to be able to live a normal life, and he sacrificed that all for his country essentially to like almost spit back in his face. So you can understand all that while watching this film. And just one little thing before we get into that 4K Blu-ray review. This movie takes place, for the most part, on Long Island, in Massapequa on Long Island, and I'm from Long Island. And there's just one thing in this movie that drives me nuts. Tom Cruise, they live in Massapequa. He sees a girl that he used to hang out with. She plays a part in this movie as well. And he's just like, oh, why haven't I heard from you? And she's like, I heard you were dating some girl from Lake Ronkonkoma. Lake Ronkonkoma and Massapequa are nowhere near each other. I've even lived in Lake Ronkonkoma. And that's another thing. Nobody from Long Island would call it Lake Ronkonkoma. We just call it Ronkonkoma. But, that's one of those movie things where most of the people involved probably aren't from Long Island, would know those little things. That's always funny. I'm sure everybody has experienced that. If a movie takes place where they live, experiencing those like little nuances that only are relatable to you living in those areas. And me watching this movie, I just think it's so funny hearing people talk like that, just saying the names of the towns out loud, really, where they don't know where they are at all. Just thought that was a little funny moment in this very dramatic film, which I do think is a really good movie. It's not one of my favorite Oliver Stone movies. I would still say that JFK is his best film, followed by Platoon, then Natural Born Killers, and I would even say that this movie is probably about fourth on that list. It's just one that I don't think has aged that amazingly, even though I think it's a very good movie. I just think there's better Vietnam films out there, like The Deer Hunter, or even First Blood, I would say, is a better movie than Born on the 4th of July. I still think it's really good. I can still definitely recommend the film, but we're here to talk about that new 4K Blu-ray. And here it is, Shout Select's new 4K Blu-ray for Born on the 4th of July. Shout Factory has released a bunch of 4K Blu-rays for Oliver Stone. I actually have every single one of those. All of them have actually been done pretty damn well. Is this the best of them? Really tough to say. I'd have to do like a side-by-side comparison, but definitely the last three, Natural Born Killers, Born on the 4th of July, absolutely JFK, which is that's my favorite of them because we got so much packed in there. But a lot of people love Born on the 4th of July. They were looking forward to this. That's why I had to absolutely grab it as well. You know, we get the movie poster right on the front. We don't have to do more than that. You come underneath, the same exact artwork. You come inside, you get a Blu-ray, and you get a 4K Blu-ray. Now, I always like to start it off with the extras, and I'm happy to say we get not only a brand new audio commentary track, but we get 3 brand new interviews, including one with Oliver Stone, which I thought was very riveting and very interesting. Oliver Stone is always a great interview. Seems like just such an intelligent guy, and for him to bring that to the table and do this interview like that, I really enjoyed it. He was clearly into it. He talked about how the reason why this movie is actually told linearly, because I feel like if this movie came out 20 years later, they definitely would have gone the non-linear storytelling route, but they told it linearly, and the reason why is because William Friedkin recommended to Oliver Stone that's what he should do, and that's exactly what Oliver Stone did. William Friedkin actually giving his advice on Born on the 4th of July, which is always a little bit funny because William Friedkin also worked with Willem Dafoe around this time to Live and Die in L.A., so Willem Dafoe always popping around in the 1980s. Not as much as he does now. I feel like the guy's in every other movie, but he's great in this one, and that interview is really cool. Now, there aren't any making of documentaries, which is, I feel like, the coup de grace. I just would have really liked that. Also, an interview with Tom Cruise would be cool. I get it. It's probably hard to do nowadays. You know, Tom Cruise is a busy guy. He's jumping out of planes. But I would have really appreciated that. But still, they did commission new extras, and I always ask for that. And I'm really glad we got 3 new interviews and a brand new audio commentary track on here. There's some TV spots. You know, it's not the greatest list of extras I've ever seen, but I was very appreciative of them. And now the audio. There is a brand new Dolby Atmos track that you could check out, not only on the new 4K Blu-ray, but also on the Blu-ray as well, which is the same exact scan as the 4K Blu-ray. So if you're one of those people who buy the 4K Blu-rays just for the pack-in Blu-ray, you will have that exact same scan on there. And it's not a huge difference between the Blu-ray and 4K Blu-ray when it comes to the visuals, but that Dolby Atmos track is pretty damn solid, I must say. During the war sequences, which, you know, take up a limited amount of time in the movie, it's definitely doing some work. You can definitely hear the bullets and the helicopters and everything like that coming from different channels. That's the stuff that you really appreciate with a good Dolby Atmos track. It's not a reference quality Dolby Atmos track, but it's still one that's pretty damn solid. Now, as far as the visuals go, you get Dolby Vision and HDR10, and something I've been saying a little bit more lately is that I thought the Dolby Vision for this was actually a little bit better than the HDR10, especially in just certain sequences. There was a bigger range of colors they were able to use, and I just feel like they were able to hit certain colors just a little bit brighter, mainly during that war sequence. Like I was saying, it's kind of in the magic hour where like the sun is like just about setting and it's very yellow. And when you watch that with the Dolby Vision on, it just looks absolutely stunning. I mean, gorgeous. It's very rare you can experience something that visually stunning. Now, it's only for this moment in the film, but it was actually better than the HDR10. It really did impress me, and way better than the Blu-ray, which is a solid Blu-ray. It's the best it's ever looked, by the way. But the big difference in the Blu-ray and the 4K Blu-ray is everything just looks so much more natural on the 4K Blu-ray, even with the HDR10. There's just certain sequences where I felt like the Dolby Vision was just doing a little bit more work, and it was a noticeable amount of more work. And I've noticed this a lot, especially with Shout Factory, because of The Stepfather, and also with Shocker last week. I've noticed that Dolby Vision has actually been a bigger noticeable difference between the HDR10. And that doesn't really happen often. I wonder if there's just something that they're doing differently at Shout Factory, but you actually will notice the difference. So if you don't have access to Dolby Vision, you actually are missing out just a little bit. Nothing crazy. It's not like a night and day difference, but if you were to do it side by side, you're going to notice a little bit of a difference in the visuals for the Dolby Vision and for the HDR10. But either which way you go, the visuals are really, really, really impressive for this. Just as you would expect for an Oliver Stone Shout Factory 4K Blu-ray. I always have felt like the visuals have been a home run with all of them, and that's just because they've always been very well shot films, and this one is no different. So source material was in good shape, I assume, and that's why these 4K Blu-rays. Plus, it's Shout Factory, it's a boutique label. They're going to throw all of their weight behind it to try and give us a great release, and of course, they did it yet again with this 4K Blu-ray release. And how would I rate Born on the 4th of July on a score of 1 to 10? I'm going to give this one a very solid 9 out of 10. It's definitely another great release from Shout Factory. And guys, it's also Tuesday, and that means it's time for our digital code giveaway. So I'm going to kick it over to my future self right now. That is correct, Past John. It is Tuesday, and that means it's time for our digital code giveaway. In every single video that we put out on Friday, We ask you guys 2 digital code giveaway questions. All you got to do is answer one of those questions in the comment section below. As long as you did that and you came back to this video right here, I put your name on a magic wheel. I spun that wheel 2 times. The 2 names it landed on, they have their choice, the digital codes that you've seen on your screen before you today. And it's also our monthly physical media channel members giveaway. So if you happen to be a channel member like John Doe Juggalo, Jed Eckerd, and Mr. Smelly Potato, and Frank from Frank's Media Reviews, and J4AC, then I put your name on a magic wheel. I spin that bad boy 1 time, and that name, they have their choice of the following 4K Blu-rays. Ouija, the original Ouija from Scream Factory on 4K Blu-ray. Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure on 4K Blu-ray. The Core on 4K Blu-ray. Thor Love and Thunder on 4K Steelbook. 2012 on 4K Blu-ray. I don't love the film, but that's a great 4K. And then, of course, The Lost Boys, the greatest vampire film ever, also on 4K Blu-ray. So if you happen to be a channel member, and this is no pressure, guys, we don't mind if you don't give us any money at all, but if you are and you help us out a little bit extra, we like to do this monthly giveaway for those people. So we're going to do that one first, and then we're going to do the digital code giveaway. And there you have it, J4AC, congratulations. You've won in the past, so you know how this works. Reach out to me at my email address, letstalkentmt@gmail.com, and just let me know which of these 4K Blu-rays you want. And to all my channel members, thank you guys all so much. I really do appreciate that extra support. Now let's do the digital code giveaway. And there you have it, Blu-ray Hunter 18 and the Blu-ray Hunter Searcher. Both of you guys have won in the past, so reach out to me again at my email address, letstalkentmt@gmail.com, or Instagram, Facebook, or the artist formerly known as Twitter. When you guys reach out to me at social media, sometimes I do miss it, so if you don't hear a response from me like within a few hours, just poke me again and let me know, because I don't know why. For some reason, my notifications for social media stuff just get buried. But if you reach out to me on my email address, I'll always get those. So that's always the best route to go, but no pressure at all. And if you didn't win this week, we do this every single week. So make sure you guys come back to this Friday's video, which will be a review for Zodiac on 4K Blu-ray, so we can do this all over again. And all I hope is that you guys enjoyed the video. And if you did, get out in those streets, tell your friends about us, and then we'll be seeing you around.